To be honest with that, that coin thing was real. To some of us, I was young, but very, I just completed my P7, and most of my friends were abducted actually, and they became soldiers. You know, like they force you to become a soldier. So those guys would attack a village, for example, and then they take the entire, like they take the young guys. So they would take the young girls, they become wives, and then take the young boys to become soldiers. I studied in Comboni College, which is one of the biggest missionary schools down there. So I kept on traveling to different countries for capacity building, and that's how I end up first I went to Wageningen University, that is in the Netherlands, and then after that I went to the US. When we nurture children, we don't discover their talent. We don't discover what they are good at and nurture what they are good at to become what they can become in future.
Crane Cargo ye company shipping ebintu okuva mu US nga babitwala e Uganda. Basobola okukola pick-up oba osobola okubireetera. Osobola okubireeta mu barrels, osobola okubireeta mu boxes, oba osobola okubireeta nga weebiri ne babiparkinga bulungi ne babishippinga. Batwala ebintu ku nnyonyi buli wiiki, oba gw'ayagala okukozesa emmeeri batwala ebintu buli mwezi. Basange ku 481 Boston Road, Unit 4 mu Berica, Massachusetts, wabakubire ku simu yaabwe +1 781 288 2042. Bagambe Paradise yakusindise basobole okuwa discount oba kozesa discount code Paradise 10. Watuko cha okubeera nti you are in Canada. How did that start for you? Is this something you always wanted? Oba bakuzala onzo sanga bakuzala na Canada.
Yeah, by the way, like I'm someone one time asked me actually, are you a planned kid? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not a planned kid. In the name of, I do not know what that even means when somebody says a planned kid, but in either way, we find ourselves either in the world. We never asked to be here, but we just found ourselves here. Kati ojja kusanga muntu n'agamba nti I'm a planned kid. I don't know how you how you can corroborate that. Naye I'm Banzala Kaberamaido. Kaberamaido is actually in a peninsula of between Soroti and Lira. It's a lowland of Kalaki Kaberamaido. So I'm born to a naturally man and Anate Sot Kumam woman. So I grew up in, most times of my life I spent in the village. I go to Kampala in 2000, I think 2003, 2002. And that is when I started studying in Kampala. Naye ate twayingira Kampala in a way of okuduka konyi. Okitegeera like during that time, that period, there was a lot of insurgency in the north. And that is how I get into Kampala in my senior one. From that time on, and then boom, up to where I got, I studied I lived in Kawempe for some time until I was thrown back again to the north because, I studied in Comboni College, which is one of the biggest missionary schools down there. But because I was very stubborn, because most of the times in most of these Kampala schools, when I got so familiar and became very popular in those Kampala schools, so my elder brother was very keen in my behavior. So he wanted actually my going back to Comboni was like a punishment. Like how they say, you know what? So how it came is like, so in a neighborhood, you see like how you have a neighborhood and then you have these people that friends to your brother and then friends to your family. And then they're like, okay, they are also sat senior 4. And then, but I performed very well. And then now we are supposed to say, okay, you're going to you make a selection of where you're going. So I was supposed to go to Marcos. So my second choice was actually Caltech Academy. And then my third choice was Comboni College. And my fourth choice, I don't remember my fourth choice. But when I went to pick admissions from Makere College, and then I also picked from Caltech Academy, one of the girls in the neighborhood also picked from Caltech Academy. So in the neighborhood, as you know, like how you're talking about things,
Yeah.
and then like, okay, then they asked this girl that, oh, where are you going to? And then she was bragging like, oh, for me, I've already got my admissions at Caltech Academy, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. Then like, what combination are you going to do? I'm going to do. They gave me BCG, and then it's the same combination that they gave me too. So my brother just looked at me like,
You're going back. Yeah.
this this is a plan.
Yeah.
It's a planned mission. But that is how I ended up being thrown to. So it's like to prevent me from going in the same school with this person. So I ended up being sent to
back to the
Comboni College.
north.
So back to the north.
Yeah.
And remember, I grew up in like, you know, like how you grow up when you're still a young kid, like to P7, and then you come to Kampala from senior 1 to senior 4. Now your life is entirely like your normal adult, like teenage life is actually in Kampala.
But now you have to go
Now
back.
you have to go back again. Yo, I suffered because it was more of survival, because you know, those guys have black beans, bro. But they love it. It's
What
nice.
is black beans?
Not like they're tiny beans, but the soup,
Oh,
the
at
soup
the
is
school,
black.
yeah.
The soup is black, but even when you fry it, the soup still remains black.
Yeah.
And then now what happens is like they have a D. You know, D like the Sim peanut butter.
Yeah.
So they put the peanut butter and it becomes very tasty, and that's it. And I survived that place until when I didn't even survive by the so much, because I didn't even study. I didn't even complete my mocks. Senior 6, we were suspended. And we came back just to do exams in my A level. So I performed quite well, but not so well. So then I came back to Kampala. So in Kampala now we are in Loggerhead. So I was meant to actually do journalism, just like how you are passionate about just journalism thing. And by then, in my senior 6 vacation, I was already contributing to the Scoop magazine. If you remember, around 2007, 2008, the Scoop magazine had just, and I was among the first young people that were chosen for the. You remember the 256. I don't remember that thing. There is Straight Talk. The Straight Talk. And then I was also part of Your Voice 256. So we could go to Radio Leader and then talk about adolescents, talk about issues that affect young people and stuff like that. So we are among the pioneers of that. There is no job that I don't know. Like I've done carpentry, I've done fabrications, I've worked in sites like literally potting, you know. I've done construction work, and I've done all sales and sort of stuff, right? But most importantly, at least I made sure that I made my own pocket money to go back to school with. Right. And then that's when I started contributing in the column of Scoop magazine, and the editor by then was called Raphael Okello. I remember him so well because he would guide you, he would tell you what to do, he would tell you how to write a story. So he would give you like okay, he just tells you what to think about. Just talk about like this, or talk about your school life, imaginations. I made so many articles when I was in my vacation for senior 6, and also I would contribute, you know, like how you send a post from Leader to Kampala. So you send it and forget about it. And then all of a sudden, after 2 months, you see your name, you have an article in a newspaper, the Scoop magazine. You're like,
That's
yo,
amazing.
You know, you hold that paper and you want to show the entire school. You talk to the entertainment prefect and they want to put it on the notice board. So it was quite interesting because I started working when I was still a young guy as well. Because every vacation we could go and work. Because my brother.
So would you go back to Kampala to work?
Yes, I would go for holidays in Kampala. That's what my brother ensured, because he didn't want me to stagger. So he was a very strict old school classic guy.
Was he kind of like a father figure to you?
He is actually a father figure up to now. He's still a father figure to me.
Okay.
I respect him, and he's called Peter Emalu, and Emalu is actually our father. So he is a father figure of our entire family. So he's very tough.
So when you started talking, you spoke about the first time fleeing the north to come to Kampala. Tell me about that situation. Was it abrupt, or is this something that you planned? Because most people that grew up in Uganda heard about Konyo, but it almost was like a myth. It was like
they just hear about
it. It was like almost the way you a child is afraid of the ghost under the bed.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience with that.
To be honest with that, that coin thing was real. To some of us, I was young, but very, I just completed my P7, and most of my friends were abducted actually. And they became soldiers, like they force you to become a soldier. So those guys would attack a village, for example, and then they take the entire, they take the young guys. So they would take the young girls, they become wives, and then take the young boys to become soldiers. So imagine at that age, I was like 12. So most of my colleagues, they came back when they were like old people. Like when they came back, they were now forced soldiers. So it was real. So I thank God, my mother, single mother, she tried all her, like how I'd never experienced what they call war until then, because I was still young, but we would run into of course, to hide. But the irony of the entire thing was so weird that these people would pass through the bushes, but we are hiding in the bushes. So it was very, like if I think about it right now, I would not make sense of it, because we would hear like gunshots, like from a distance, like from the villages, like ahead, and then from the village on the other side, you must go into hiding. And they would target towns and trading centers, because they knew like like how those villages would be like. It's just the villages would be scattered. There are homesteads that are scattered, but in the town areas, their people would be in the same spot. So for them, they would do, like scavenge around the villages, because during that time they did what you call IDP camps. So those IDP camps, internally displaced people. So they would only put them in the towns and centers, and then have soldiers guard the entire town. So when you are still in the villages down there, they would capture those people, and then when they find you maybe in hiding, or they get an entire village and then round off people. And it was real. For us, we escaped not by choice, but because maybe we had also a privilege that we had people that let's say in Kampala, like my elder brother that was in Kampala already had established himself. So it's like, you know what, you send them over, let's start life, because we had to sit on top of a big truck of lorry filled with stuff, and so many people to just get out of this situation, and walked miles and miles just to get that ride,
to get to the bus,
just to get that ride. Not a bus, it's a ride, like a like a truck filled with the food, like that is coming from
potatoes, and then you sit on top of the potatoes.
So you see, like when the truck moves like this, and then you're feeling like you're going to fall. And then that's how we got into Soroti, and then from Soroti town, that's how we boarded a bus. But by then, there were millions and millions of people that are already displaced that are in Soroti town. And for us, we continued to Kampala. So while in Kampala, that's how I integrated in Kampala. Very blending, like blendly. By 2003, I was breakdancing.
Right. And so you after that, you ended up you ended up graduating university?
Yeah. So I had a dead year by 2008. Because I didn't complete that, because one, I was contemplating. My mind was, I have this passion for journalism that it gave me some form of love, because I gave you the explanation of contributing to Scoop magazine, and the teens magazine, so I had already developed the love for magazines and journalism as a whole. And in my vacation, my brother ensured that I worked. But during that time, in my vacation, my brother, it was a long one. So my brother got me a job with Spencon Services, and I was working as an office assistant. That was the biggest upgrade. You know, like when you're in vacation and you're tucking in and you're like, bro, you're like in suits and being very serious in offices, and by then you'll be meeting ministers and stuff. And that's the beginning. It's like a turning point of my life, because I would meet people, but I was accessing resources, most importantly the internet, because by then I was already starting to access internet from those offices. So like they gave like a computer, so you have access to a computer, and I taught myself computing, and that's why I would type my stories and send to Raphael Okello by email.
And what year was this?
That was 2008.
Yeah, 2008. Okay.
Yes, 2008. So my first Facebook was 2009. That's when I got my first Facebook, Facebook account. Up to now, I've never changed it even.
So at what point, through all this, was coming to Canada a big dream? Is this something you were thinking about, or how did that come about?
To be honest with you, it wasn't. Okay. I studied Canadian prairies, like
like everybody
like anyone
else,
yeah. But you'll just have imaginations of what it looks like, what it is like. But it never occurred that I would be here at any given time. However, when I did a dead year and I went to the university, because my brother wanted me to do medicine, and I couldn't have the credits for it, but I had to do biological science. So after my biological science course, I started working. Of course, I worked with Mukwano Industries. I worked with Wisteria. I worked with Fresh Dairy as a quality supervisor, quality this, quality that, until when I went to the west part of Uganda to manage a project. So actually it is like, it's from that point that my life started turning around in terms of travel, because from these projects, managing this project, because remember, I developed the quality assurance part of things. I would develop quality standards, SOPs, and like GMPs and HACCPs and all these other things, because I was like a consultant almost. So when I went down there managing a project as operations manager, they of course gave me a project, and I was managing an agribusiness project. So remember, I am elevating myself from industrial biotechnology to what you call agribusiness enterprising, now business. So managing a business in its entirety. So dealing with farmers, dealing with the development partners and all these other things. And as I was taken there as the operations manager, the general manager resigns. So I become the general manager. And that is how I start what you would call capacity building. So capacity building is through the projects. So before I knew it, I was appointed to become like to become the project manager for those projects within the western, like southwest region. So that is USADF, ABI, HIVOS. So those projects would be like I was managing them. Now those gave me a lot of limp. Why? Because I had the ability to have capacity building in like almost every quarter of the project, because we had projects. I had to go to Israel for further studies in agribusiness management itself. And then I went for project planning and development. Then I went for farmers something. Then I went for this. So I kept on traveling to different countries for capacity building. And that's how I end up first I went to Wageningen University, that is in the Netherlands. And then after that, I went to the US. Washington. But remember, the project that took me there was also a Washington project. So I couldn't stay, because the guys were like, you know what, you stay here. But at the time, of course, the project was already ending. So when I went back, I was like, you know what, I had some people that were here already. And then they told me like, drop in. So I put in this application, and then it brought me here. So it occurred that it's like incidental.
Right.
It's incidental that my projects were already ending, and I didn't want to go back to a spot where you have to again start looking for a job. You know, like how it is difficult to be driven on a VX or a V8, and then you start locking doors and like, I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
Because my contracts were really literally getting done, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of competition in the NGO world. So you need to make sure that you are upgrading yourself every time and again. Either you go for a master's in the field that you understand. But remember, I am also misplaced. For me, I'm in biological science. I'm actually biotechnology kind of specialist. But then I am in a space where these guys have come with a lot of business development, kind of like they are BBAs, These guys with the masters in business administration, that. So I couldn't look at myself as out competing them in that space. So I decided to make sure that Mike come over here. So it wasn't like a planned thing,
right? But everything aligned. And
it kind of aligned.
Yeah,
it aligned by default,
right? So for you, prior to coming to Canada, what were your opinions, besides you having studied the Canadian prairies? What were your opinions? What did you think Canada would be like?
Senior blazer. In fact, when I got here, like like that thing of getting the visa, I wasn't like that excitement of getting a visa. I was used to it because I would get visas, right? But the plan that now when I'm there, I came with my one program. I'd already developed my business plan to establish my own milling plant. And oil, like a sunflower oil mill, and I developed this business plan to establish it in Kalaki. I still call it Kalaki milling plant, and I needed 500,000 Canadian dollars. That's what I came to collect in Canada.
That's all you wanted. And then,
that's all I came to collect, and I'd made this plan. It was solid. It was airtight, bro. Until I got here. So the plan was, make my money, go back home, invest my money, and then boom. But I thought, it never occurred to me, I never asked how I'm going to make this money.
Okay.
I never asked myself what I was going to do to make this money. But all I knew was that, you know what? When I'm down here, I'm really going to make it.
Okay. So throughout your story, you get to Canada. At this point, had you started a family, or were you a single man that whole time?
So, to be honest with you, I wasn't single as such. I had a very stable relationship, but then there were a lot of situations around that, based on the fact that I was never home. Like how you are in a relationship, but you are more or less like a single person, because there is like I could drive. I could come from Kasese to Kampala for a meeting that would last for like 30 minutes and then drive back, or stay in for a weekend and then go back again. Like I was always on the road, and then I was traveling a lot, quite a bit as well. So by the time I got here, I wasn't really anchored into even starting a family, but I already starting to think about it, right? So the maturity also was still not there. I wasn't mature enough even to start a family or whatever the case it
So
might
you were
be.
mostly focusing on your career.
It was
and
career
growth.
development.
Yeah. So you get here, you're looking for 500,000 to start a plant, a mill.
Yes. And that was the goal.
And what year was this?
That is 2007.
So we are in 2026.
No, not 2007. That is 2017 actually, not 2007.
So 2017 you get here.
Yes.
How close are we to the 500,000?
So to be honest with you, we are very far. Everything, like there was a point when I got here. There's a point that the 360.
Yeah.
There is a point that I just had a 360 of that entire plan.
Right.
Like how you come into the country and then you're like, okay, now where the dream, we have come to get a Canadian dream, right?
Right.
And then you start to look for the anchors, the roots for achieving the Canadian dream. But then you get hit by reality. Like you get head on with reality.
Yeah.
Because in my entire life, I've never seen what you call a homeless person before. I'd never seen what you call someone that is living with the, let's say, like up close, or someone living entirely with somebody that is having a mental disturbance or something that really, like, for us, mental health in an African, or in my opinion, in my African mindset, is something to do with the witchcraft or nobamuloze, or no, something has to be disconnecting his wires, right? But then you get here and then it becomes real. Like, so you see somebody, you get put to a space where you are sharing space with people that are speaking to imaginary people. Now that is scary. And then you have these people that are actually frustrated with their lives, so they're abusing drugs as well. And then you have these people that are actually they're either rehabilitating themselves back into the society because they're frustrated with criminality and all these other things, and then you are sharing the same space with them. And then you are here trying to navigate the system and trying to discover what you can do. Remember the dream, right? Like, but hold on. So from here, what do I have to, what do I have to really make of to get the 500,000? Which meant that I needed to really, really become resilient enough to get out of the situation, because I had to get out of that space, because it was going to make me crazy too. I stayed there for like 1 month, right? But
was it like a shelter?
Yeah, these are shelter spaces. So these shelters, they have these are homeless people, like true homeless. So it is true that when we come from where we come from, you're coming from a space where, like, you're either coming from your mother's home, your father's house, or your own home. You have everything figured out, right? But then you're coming in this space, you're sharing a small space. You're given a bed and given a timeline of when to come and when to leave. So like how as much as these people have given you maybe accommodation and feeding you, but the moment they put in the restriction of when you have to access that same space, that becomes wild. To your mindset, it knocks you. So the reality check was, the first thing that I discovered was, like, I even had to, I cried in my first job. In an instance where I remember I'm coming from a corporate kind of situation where you're having fuel allowance, you're having these per diems, you're having this ride, you're having these cars that are driving you around. You have it figured out. You're a manager. People are like lining up to meet up with you, right? And then you're coming to a space where somebody's like, okay, now George, you're going to do a cash job, but for you to, the condition of the cash job, you know what, come very early in the morning, and then you're going to pick up this trash, put them here. It is raining and it's very dirty, and like you're touching, like, it is so gross. And then I sat in a space where this guy took me to work, and I was stacking up, like how you finish the job, finish stacking a lot of garbage and then taking them to sorting them and all these other things, and then the guy takes you to another location, but you're working so fast thinking that, oh, you're making the boss happy, right? They're going to pay you well. But instead, I didn't know the Canadian culture of work, really. Like, you have to work by the hour. For me, I'm working just to finish the job. And I was taken to a warehouse. The warehouse was just to stack the stuff. For me, instead of pushing the stuff with the pump truck, I'm just lifting stuff and throwing them around, and then stacking the skids around. And then within 30 minutes, I'm done. I'm telling the guy, like, I'm done. The guy was like looking at me and like, yo, you're good. I never knew why the guy was saying I was so good. But I just discovered, I got to discover that I was working beyond what I was supposed. Like, the job for 2 hours, I was doing it in 30 minutes. And by the time I sat there and I was looking at these cars passing, and I'm looking at everyone, I'm like, but am I going to do this thing for how long am I going to do it? And then I started looking at flashback of how I was, what I was, and what I was doing. And you're like, I just found tears rolling down my eyes. And I'm like, yo, I will never finish this. I cannot do this for the rest of my time here. No, I must lay strategies. And I suspended even doing what you call a cash job. I had to I started initiating ways of making sure that I get to case workers. And like I ask questions, like, this is my objective. This is what I have because I have my bachelor's, I have my this. I don't want to, because I felt I'm this kind of person that I felt that I was educated until I was told, you know what, you don't have a Canadian education. Oh God. That is just by someone who you look up to as a case manager, your case manager, telling you that, look, you don't have a Canadian education. So for that reason, you're better off going to high school. That is a strike. So those are like reality number. Like that's another reality again. So my education is not recognized. How? And then you start navigating yourself from a high school level. No way. I studied for 4 years to attain my bachelor's degree. And how come you're telling me that I don't have a Canadian education? What does that even mean? So that really put me more lower than even I expected from the dream. Because now I was moving with my head, but with my mindset now clogged to the conversation, to the reality that my education does not matter anymore here. So I have to start from scratch. And that reality knocked me down to the extent that I had to start looking for ways to make sure that I now survive beyond to achieve what I had come to collect. Remember, I had come to collect. I didn't come to sweep.
No, you came to collect your $500,000
so
Canadian.
I got to a point where now I'm like, okay, this woman is lying to me. I started consoling myself. So I told myself I'm not going to that high school that she recommended. She even recommended me the institution that I need to go to.
Yeah.
And the programs that I need to start off with. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Until I had to learn myself into social work because I'm very good with rapports and then got myself into the social care. But from then, that's when work started making sense. Because with the goal that I was meant to at least do something science. But without the Canadian education, how would I have attained the science aspect that I wanted? So I needed to go back to school. I start doing this and that. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. And I started MacGyvering life. So by the time you put yourself into starting to MacGyver life now, it meant that the dream is dropping.
Now you're just surviving.
Yes, it's now surviving. So remember back in the time when we came here a few years ago, life was a little bit different from how it is now. You know, it wasn't as expensive as it is now. For a 1-bedroom apartment, it was at least some few bucks. But now it's a little bit harder even for the newcomers that are coming in. Back in the time, you would just get a small space for a $300, at least where you can stay, a studio space where you can stay for like $300 or $500, you know. But now it's no more. And what the whole thing shot me back to starting to now navigate myself towards making sure that now this is home.
So you needed to have a shift.
So remember, I had 3 things that are happening. So I am chasing the papers, the immigration settlement papers. Then I'm also trying to figure out career-wise. But at the same time, career is actually knocking, like it's a wall. There's a wall that is completely blocking me. So I need to figure out some survival aspects. So I needed to do a course, a program that can be able to make me at least foot me into a job. But not any job, because there are some jobs that I refused. That, you know what, this one I will not do. This one I will not do. I may not be able to mention it, not to discourage those that are doing those kind of jobs. But to be honest with you, I'm like, you know what, I need my back, I need my liver, I need my, like where you go to work in a chemical factory where, like you have to breathe in a lot of chemicals into your lungs, and because those things affect you in a long run. So some of the things I refused. But what I discovered is that, okay, I really have the nature in me of social aspect, much as my background is not social, like social work, but at least I would thrive there. And that's where I went in. But with a program. So I completed that program. Now comes the confusion. As you are into the program, and then you meet a couple of people that have been here quite some time. And then they start confusing and spin your head around. And the spin now comes in phases.
Right.
Because remember, you're navigating multiple things. Even, did you know that Paradise in Uganda, when we nurture children, we don't discover their talent. We don't discover what they are good at and nurture what they are good at to become what they can become in future. We rather just tell the child, go to school, study, and then we even force them to do what they don't like. I was forced to do science. But in actual sense, art has always put food on my table, up to date. So imagine if I'd established that, discovered myself prior to coming into Canada. I would have discovered the Canadian dream already. All right? Because now the phase that I wanted to start narrating to you is actually the discovery phase, where I needed to discover myself. I needed to actually discover who I am. Because I came to this country a young guy, with ambitions, heavy ambitions, but with no self-recognition. Like, I don't know myself. I don't know what I want. So here comes now the confusion where somebody says, no. Or rather, bw'okola plumbing, ojja kufuna kiralu. Then another one tells you another one. Do PSW, personal support work. Then the other one says another one. Then you're putting all the words and all this information together, so there is an information overload. So first, you are loaded with a bunch of information that you yourself, actually, you don't know what you would want. You fail to select from all of them. But then, because you are trying to discover what you want, you tend to actually get anything that is easier to go with. And then I jumped to that part so heavily, but then I became a victim of it towards the end. Because remember, I spent almost my entire time without studying. I refusing just deliberately, but what I did, I accredited my academic documentation using World Education Services. So I had what you call the Canadian equivalence. And that Canadian equivalence would give me even admissions at the university at a bachelor's degree level as well. So imagine I wasted 2 months of my time to do what you call English proficiency. But I'm coming from an English-speaking colonized country with very excellent credits in English, both in P7E. All my education life is English. But the Canadian system wants me to do a proficiency. And for what? That it boosts my resume. And then, talking of a resume, you spend a month learning how to write a resume. So imagine how they put you, like, first of all, it's like an indoctrination. They make you feel you are less, you are not worth in the system. So the system, to adopt you, you need to gain from some level.
It needs to break you.
Yeah, it needs, so I got to a point where I was on my knee and I accepted, because now these are programs that are also funded. So these people make you feel like it's like as though to your mind it rings like it's a mandatory thing. But also because you're chasing this and chasing that, it's like, okay, it's the only avenue that I can connect to the connection. Because if I want the job, I need to go to like community service agencies or employment service agencies that can enable me tailor make my resume to be able to send it out there. But the mandate, the catch 20 there is basically you to attend the program, which of course also is funded. So your attendance is their money. So in a long run, I discovered that. But back to the point where I was trying to make for you is that if at all had come when I knew all these things, like I was grounded, I knew what I wanted, I wouldn't have done all that. But then also the third phase of this puts me at a level where I got confused. So you have quite a lot of information, but now you are now starting to discover yourself. Like, but I think I can do this. And then your mind rings and then I'm like, okay, but no, let me forward myself and start at least building a career in what I have been doing, industrial biotechnology. Senior blazer. I went to a biotechnology, okay, like industrial place as a food inspector. Blazer, I worked for 4 days because I was put in a meat inspection line. So my work, just see the cleanness of meat, approve it, it continues. Food inspection, 101, basic. But blazer, I was broken. I'd never gotten to a point where your work makes you depressed and sick. But you're not actually sick because you're like maybe hardworking. No. This was meat. So your work determines the quality of the cow that comes in for a guillotine to be. And then by the time you're seeing the cow, they are taking the life of a cow. And then you're seeing the blood splash. And then you see before you know it, the legs are rising and then it is running, it's in the air. And the cow that was alive is now upside down. And then the guy comes with a very serious, then slices the cow. They take that whole picture tortured me. And I'd never, and that is now how I ran away from my bio. So my goal was to succeed in this area, which I was already qualified for. But my goal was to at least become a food inspector and earn. But then when I got there, it changed my entire perspective. You know, like in having nightmares. So you would have nightmares of how you're turning to become a cow, and then you're like so that whole escapade plays in your mind over and over and over. It sent me packing from my own area of comfort until when again confusion again kicks in, because now you go back to that space where you need to start questioning yourself. But is it really what I have to do? Right. Is it really what I have to? Is it maybe I have to do this? Then comes now. No. What you have to do something practical. Do this, do that. Then they drive you away from your own passion, your own goals, and your own abilities to what you call money chase.
So that was going to be my question. So do you think most people here, in this case, Havana, Ugandans, do you think most people are doing what they love, or do you think most people are just really looking for what job can give me the most amount of money? Because I find that sometimes it's hard to find that balance, loving the job and also the job paying you enough. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's either way. You see, like how we come from Uganda, and then you say, oh, that guy went for Cheyo. We've come to sweep. So that's the mindset already, right? So even when you, the first, like when you get out of the plane that brought you from Uganda to this land, the mindset that locks is, I've come to sweep. I've come for Cheyo. So either way, hook or crook, you'll have to work anything. there has to be something that brings the money. So you've come to this tree, whatever branch that you get, you take, it has to have money on it. The money lives. So the chase for the money lives is what makes us settle for whatever and wherever in any time that we can. So you settle for what can bring in the money in the moment and survive. Because remember, you are dealing with quite a lot of things as well. You're dealing with settlement, but also dealing with the realities of settlement. So which means we are migrating ourselves from a cash economy to a credit economy where we must learn to do things on a credit way, but also learn to now pay the bills. So we are not nurtured with that mindset from where we are coming from. So that mindset already puts you at a point where you must start surviving. It's like, so what you catch as a job becomes your survival catch 20. So you either have a job or you're homeless. So you choose one. So you catch the job and do it to the best of your ability, but it's not what you want actually. It's not what you studied. It's not what you even came here to do, right? But then most of those that are, of course, successful tend to go beyond discovering that, okay, this is not where I want. It's where I want is here, and then they work towards fulfilling that goal. But those that stay in this level, they end up now embracing the other, what you call comfort of settlement. Comfort of settlement, these are my terms and opinions, that you get to a point where you're complacent with where you are. Like, okay, I earn a $20 hour job. I am comfortable. I can pay my bills. I have a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom apartment. I can pay the bills successfully. I can pay my gas. I can pay my electricity. I can pay my car. Or you get your car, so you're complacent with the situation. Like, okay, after all, maybe I can save a $500 after the end of the month. I don't have responsibility back home. So you are. Now, you get to that spot where you can live there for the next decade. Like, you can literally be there 10 years. And that's why when you go to these jobs, you'll find a white lady telling you, oh, I've been in this job for like 30 years. Like, huh? You've been in this job for 30 years. Remember, this is someone that is training you. And like, so your mindset will be like, so I'm going to be cleaning this same spot, like cleaning this spot here for 30 years, like this person. So that runs in your mind like, hey. Yeah. So the way you have to navigate yourself out of that is what matters, because all of us come almost at the same level. Because that's why you see, like, Canada humbles you. It humbles you. Come with your too much celebrityism. I hear you have. Yeah. I hear you have these bachelors of what you have. These. We start from the same pace, same level. But what matters most among different each one of us is how you navigate yourself out of each level. Because all of us went through almost the same ditches and we jumped until where we were. However, I can't say that I'm accomplished or we are accomplished, because it's still a journey. And the journey is until when you realize that, oh, there are people that have been here for 30 years and they've never gone back home. And there are those that have been here for, like, say, 28 years and like they have never even thought of being home, because the conditions of settlement have captured them in.
Oh, so give us what things might prevent someone, kubaira that's a question ujasanga abantu bangi babuuza. How can you spend 15 years, how can you spend 20 years in the diaspora, notalabako your families, notaziika, notagenda ku mikolo? Why do you think that happens?
It's so easy. Actually, the easy way to see it is, let's break it down from this point. Nti omuntu bwayingira wano, let's break it down until bwayingira wano yetaga to settle, yetaga 3 years. Okay? To settle. Nti kati aina address, aina amakage, aina permanent job. 3 years, give or take. But in those 3 years, this person is actually not able to travel at all. Okay? Now, when you go past the 3 years, now this person has started settling. Like he has started like settling. He is either now working, and now he has started realizing that, oh, bills are paid. Now he's starting running late with some bills. It's like a chase of the check and almost becoming a homeless, because we are always one, as you know, the old saying that the one check away from being homeless. So you miss one check, you are either thrown out of the apartment or you are late with so many bills. So that keeps that person busy. That's why most people respect those guys that are in the diaspora and they go home and they take holidays for like 2 months. Now you give them respect. Why? Because they are able to know that, okay, the bills in the diaspora are paid, but they're also spending at home. And then at the end of the day, when you have a situation where you have added into yourself, let's say properties, say you have a mortgage, say you have multiple cars, you're married, you have children. Now, those are all captives of the situation.
Make it harder for you to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now let's take an example of somebody that has got a mortgage.
Right.
Somebody that has got a mortgage means that you...
Okay, let's take an example of, let's say, someone that has a mortgage and 2 kids.
Yes. Now, that is a perfect example of like you have a mortgage that pays quite significantly, but your job, even when it is good, you'll be, of course, chasing the mortgage payments, because the mortgage payments, how we understand it in our African context, is different from how it is here. Because at the end of the day, you'll be financing, you're servicing the loan interest, thinking that you're actually servicing the premium of the loan. By the time you know it, you're actually very far away from even completing a 30-year or even a 40-year loan.
A big percentage of your monthly payment goes into interest. Not
exactly.
Actual, yeah.
So as you're paying into that, you have multiple bills. So take, for example, that household will be having 2 cars. So which means they're paying 2 cars. They have gas, they have property tax, they have electricity, they have water. They have phones, they have internet, and they have gadgets for the kids. They have home internet, they have... The pile, if somebody that is in that ideal example gives you the monthly breakdown of their bill, it would finance a to and from air ticket. Like they can spend the rest of the holiday with just 1 month bill of their breakdown of 1 month only. So which means that this person will hardly save for holidays. So either the two of you as a household must devise a means of securing income that can secure you a holiday, because a family of 2 means that that's a household of 4. Their air ticket to Uganda is not less than 12,000. So if you take it into perspective, this person needs 12,000 for transport only. Now, this is also a household that needs now upkeep in Uganda. Take it that this person also has to do some development back home.
Also remember that when they go to Uganda, their Canadian kids need a place with air conditioning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
something nice.
The expenses that they have to dissipate is enormous. So their budget line of a holiday will look like almost $50,000 at least up front. Now, how many households of our origin have capacity to build that capital?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Now, which means that you have to devise a means of having that happen. But also there is a situation whereby we have, of course, the African, the black tax situation, because you're not here alone, because we support our support system. Because I was talking about my brother that paid for me school fees, so I must pay his kids' school fees to like pay back. So now you must...
Is that actually true?
Of course. This is African settings. Like most households, we literally become responsible of situations that are around us by default of giving back. Because if they paid my school fees, my brother paid my school fees, and he's calling me and telling me that, oh, my daughter or my son, I do not know whether he's going to go to school this month. How will I feel? By conscience, like just your conscience, you'll be like, oh, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my brother. Or I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my father. So which means it is by default you must support your younger siblings. Now that becomes a black tax. So the more you start chipping in, like it starts with a small one, and then entitlement becomes like it becomes an entitlement to make sure that you get it. So when you keep giving, and then here also you are expanding, which means you are left with nothing. Yeah. So now, the 3 years of settling down, this person has got the 2 kids in the 4th year, has got a mortgage in the 5th year. Now, that one, you need to look at another 5 years to save to be able to go home. Back in the time when we used to be in Kampala and we look at the white guys coming for holiday, like, oh, the way they spend, like, oh, no. We didn't know that they come with their credit cards of 10,000 and they're splashing. You don't know. And then also those that come home, they don't have responsibilities. There are people that have children here and children back home. So you must support both ends. So expect that father to be very strained financially. Why? Because he has an expense here and he has an expense back home. Right. The kids must go to school down there, and he has to also show development. Because do you know that what holds us so much into these countries is because how will I feel when I go back home and then the villagers are like, that one went to Canada. What does he have even? We who left, we remained here. We even better than him. You don't even have
there's a little bit here. So Waliwoka, there's a little bit of pressure to have something to build a home. I did a video a while ago because someone asked me, why is it that especially abantu abakulu, like older Ugandans, they build houses that they don't live in. And I think the younger people, it's hard for them to understand it, but it's sort of like a pride thing. Yeah. And let's say you go back to your village, even if you go in Uganda once every 2 years and you're staying in a hotel, and you live in America or you live in Canada, the village is gonna look at you. So that's why it's important that you have something. So I want us to talk about these new Canadians, the young people that are coming into Canada. I was here in 2023, I think 2024. In the situation at that time, I passed by Dominion Church, and there were people that were sleeping on the floors. The condition was not very good at that time. How are things now? Is there any way which you say, but how's the situation with the new Canadians coming in?
Well, there's a lot of changes. The changes are not good to those that want to come, but the changes are good for those that are already here. Because of the influx 2023, 2024, saw Canada receiving the biggest number of immigrants. So that triggered a situation for probe. Now, there was a time when, of course, ministers were changed and all these other things. There was a discovery of taking advantage of the system. Not for Ugandans. Ugandans make like not even 1% of the Canadian population. So as a community, Ugandans are negligible. So they're not much. But in the entire ecosystem of immigration, they found a lot of flaws. So that has gone against those that may want to come in now. However, those that came in at the time, because of the influx, there was just too much at the same time. Because Toronto, for example, they will tell you that Yonge Street alone was planned for maybe 500,000 people only. Right now, they're like, the population is bigger than the planned infrastructure. So the city itself was also overwhelmed at the time when you came, actually, I remember. Because when you look at those people, there's always been what you would call a starting point. But that starting point, what builds and what powers that starting point is actually hope. Even when I'm here, things will be better. And they remember my goal. Like even if I'm lying here,
I'm gonna get the money.
At least the people that come here and say, you know what, I'm here just 2 years. Give me 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
The one of my favorite was a border guy in Uganda. So he gets his visa. Najja. Yagamba nze saagala bintu bingi kasitangula boda ezi satu. It was like 3 borders. I am done. And then what happens? He got the money to buy the borders, and he's like, naye wano wenteekako ka tax. So he's like, okay, fine. Let me do the taxi. By the time he got the money for the tax, like you said, the reality of life
starts kicking.
And one of the things you did in touch, which I want to add for our viewers, the other aspect is the family life.
Yes.
Until people forget, you come here having your own goals.
Yes.
But you never know. Then you meet someone.
Yep.
Now this person is also pulling you away from your dream. Now you're with this person. A year later, now you have a baby. Everything that you're doing, you're getting a mortgage, it's taking you away further. Now, this is why you find people that have been in the diaspora for, let's say, 15, 20 years, and because of my job, doing the videos, and some people are like, wait a minute. It has been 18 years. And then you ask them, what did you want? Someone told me, by the time they left Uganda, this secondary, the Gondi.
The first.
Yeah, the first. Their company was subcontracting Secanoria. But when they left, their company just kind of, they died out. But now they look at Secanoria like, this could have been me. So it's kind of interesting how the dream, it's hard to maintain the dream. The dream slowly. It just slowly, and before you know it, your biggest goal.
But anyways, there is one thing that I didn't tell you actually, in part of my story, that when I started now looking at myself, I was like, Jojo Kuze, you're grown up, like you're big now, like I'm like, okay, hold on, so I need to start giving birth. I need to, like how you like life starts knocking you like, now I'm here to stay.
And you realize you're no longer here for change.
You're not going back. Because every time when I'm talking to newcomers, like I'm like, you're here to stay. You're not going back anytime soon. So if you're here to stay, which means back home now is a visitation. You go for a visit, maximum 1 month. If you've got willing, if you have money, maybe 2 months. But either way, the house that, even if you construct the biggest house that looks like what, you'll actually pay those that will sleep in it. So you get to a point like, but even if I've completed this project, I've done my mother's house, I've done this one, but when will I go back home? Now it starts like, when will I get married? But so all that starts building up. But then there is this life also that you want to like, okay, I need to give birth now. You give birth the first one, the second one. And then you're like, okay, now I think the child is expensive. I stop there. So now, as I am here right now, I have 4 kids in this country. Okay? Which means my household is of a household of 6. So by the time you start judging someone for not going back home, when they are maintaining a household of 6 people in this country, you need to start thinking again, because it takes more than just maintaining. And back to to your question about how things are. Things have changed in a very short time, that most of the newcomers that came here in that period, they never had the opportunity that some of us had before. Because when we came here, they would even give you lessons, what you would call Canadian history. Canadian do's and don'ts, the norms, the like how you be like, okay, when you're standing next to a female woman, a female, there's things that you don't have to, you don't have to touch a woman's hair, even if they are just, like those things that can be misinterpreted, the personal space. Well, those were looking like basics to us at the time when we got in here in our newcomer welcome centers. But the newcomers now, they are not receiving that. So they're going straight into the communities and straight into settlement, right? Now, when they settle, the realities of interpersonal relationships kick in. Now, the patriarchal upbringing kicks in. The cultural difference and the cultural biasness also knocks them. And this is like another situation that will be like the cultural difference that exists is also another situation that would be directly hitting the new Canadian. Because most of the people that settled here, most of them that came, let's say in 2023, they are settled now. Because settling in Canada is quite easy. It takes very short time for papers, for this and that. But when you settle, which means these are people now that looking for partners, that starts looking to give birth. There are those that even came at the time because things were hard. You're like, oh, you know what? Just get pregnant and you give birth. You will see. I will give you papers. Somebody lies to them. Lies to someone like that. Now, these are situations that people have even given birth to circumstantial children or accidental children just simply because somebody was promised to be given papers. But the person cannot even speak up simply because they didn't have the voice, they didn't have where to start from. They didn't know how to even initiate. So they keep quiet with it, just like in an African culture where you get pregnant and then your father starts, who is the pregnancy, the owner. So you keep it to yourself and keep it to yourself only until when maybe that time that you can talk about it. But that is the result of being unable to navigate the system in a situation where you can understand the system. So as much as those that arrived here like that time that you came, settled very quickly, they have a cultural gap to catch up with. Because most of them are like, they look at George, who lives in a very modest, small apartment that looks very bad with his children, and then think that, but George, they have been here for like all these years. Why do you live in such a place? So somebody goes and lives in a 4,000 bedroom apartment or 2,000 bedroom apartment simply because he has to prove a point. He's in the diaspora, living large. So he sees George driving a old Escalade and then like, look at what you're driving really. Yet you can go and pick a car for zero balance, zero, as long as my credit is good. After all, I have the job. So you see the shift? So like, okay, iPhone 16, no, I need a 17. So it accumulates. So within a shortest time that right now people are already starting to have repossession of their cars, they're having credit crises, having financial situations going on because simply they have crashed their car, they have started the habits that are drinking heavy and driving. Somebody is running over the lights, you have not even understood the Canadian driving, you're driving recklessly, you're not stopping for pedestrian, and all of a sudden, the Canadian culture is completely zero in that person. So what they're experiencing, what they're starting to experience is that interface. And it is very strong. And when you come to start looking at and start to vet, somebody will come to you and come, but George, what you're saying, it is true. How do I get away from this? No, then you explain. Then you say, bro, drop this, drop that. Why do you need this? So we end up accumulating what we want, but not what we need.
Not what we need, yes.
So most of those that together, like, okay, you are trying to prove a point. Like, like, come and start opening your fridge for people on TikTok. Like, you see, you're not married. Then you're like, really, for what? So nobody, because the Canadian culture it's like there are two classes. There's no that you're going to be showing off to anybody else.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Because you're either standing in a train, you're in a train, sharing a train with a millionaire. And the person that is actually not driving is more wealthier than the person that is struggling to pay the car
payment. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that is the discrepancy that and the reality that most newcomers are not getting into terms with. And in most cases, in my teachings, in some of the contents that I create, it's like it's a teaching. It's like, did you know this is the reality of credit? Did you know this is the reality of this? And like somebody like, hey, whatever, I did this, I got this, I got. Yes, that's what we are talking about. So that period that you're talking about has that gap. And it's until when sometimes, of course, you make mistakes and you learn from the mistakes and relearn again to grow out of it. Other than that, we are in a situation where we are going to start having because situations where we are having a community, of course, support people. You've seen people that get strained and stressed to committing suicide in our own Ugandan community. So, but when you look back, it's like these people need support system. These people need a lot of because people even fear to come out, because even people fear to be rejected, because you remember, like, you're flouting yourself and like you fear to come out for people to even discover that, oh, this person causes this, because people have been depressed and situations lead them to actions that they regret, but they can't now undo it. So they become like typical those that are actually in those spaces who are homeless and become a nuisance or even abuse the drugs. And that's a reality that actually people have to get into terms with, because at the end of the day, when we come into this country, we become those that are in the country. You cease to be Ugandan, you become Canadian. So as a Canadian, there is no way you're going to say, okay, I'm going to run to my father's house and then maybe because I've lost the job.
Yeah.
You have to use the system to navigate yourself out of the situation. If you've lost the job, too bad. Run to the system and the system navigates you. But if the system again rejects you and knocks you out, that's how you get distorted. Because most people have lost their minds, they have lost esteem. People are not able to even come into the community. Why? Because, oh, you see, that man knows my father. And you see, they took a lot of lugambo to my elder brother that, you see, for me, I smoke. You get it, eh? So because you've come into a free situation and free zone, now you expect to live your life. But then you live your life and then you get into a cluster. And remember also, the worst thing that has happened to that category also is clustering. So when you come as Paradise and then you met with George, and maybe George navigated you through, so you'll be more loyal and allegiant to George. So you are clustered to a George's kind of circle and bubble.
George and George's friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now when you're in George's bubble, when George has a problem with another person within the community, you are by default antagonistic to the other party without knowing the roots. Exactly. The mpalanirako comes into full effect.
Do you think that's common in the Ugandan community here?
It is very common. Most definitely it's common. Why? Yeah. Some of this is because of clustering that I'm trying to explain. Because when you find yourself in a situation where you're unable to understand why this person actually does not like the other person, but you actually by default hate the other person altogether.
You have to be loyal. Yeah.
Like, okay. But because this person drove me around and bought me a cup of beer when I just came.
So yes, okay.
It is just that.
One thing that we spoke about before we started recording, you said probably 7 out of 10 Canadians would, if they had the chance, would go to the US. I found that interesting. Why? Why do you think? Why is that your opinion?
That is true to the latter, based on one reason. You see, Canada as Canada, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
The economic boom of Canada versus, okay, let me just tell it, like, the resources, like in terms of industrialization of Canada, is a little bit low. Number one. Number two, it has also, the COVID-19 created a switch from the industrial jobs got depleted. Most of the industrial jobs shifted to the US. And those that were industrial jobs went into healthcare. And those that were already in healthcare now are finding themselves to compete for the opportunities that are there. So meaning that in a nutshell, the opportunities in Canada are dwindling. And this is evident from statistics itself, because if you look at what even triggered the entire immigration conversation is when the Canadian kids are no longer able to get what you call summer jobs. So these are college students, university students that Tim Horton jobs used to be for college kids. But these days, somebody that is coming as let's say a skilled laborer or under a program is the one that is doing it, because it benefits the institution that is employing them to have somebody that is permanent and pay them less money. So now you have to compete for the less resources and less opportunities that are existing. So you must, when you come to think about it, like, okay, but what is happening in the neighborhood? So you really realize that, the neighborhood, most industries are running down there, which means most opportunities, most of the trucking jobs here are complete. I own trucks, but I've packed 2 trucks because the contract no longer makes sense. You cannot sustain yourself with that. So meaning that most truckers and most people that have AZ, DZ licenses are moving to the US. Why? Because it's more highly industrialized. The entire Texas is, if you go to Texas alone, the GDP of Texas is as strong as, when you compare the economic boom down in the US compared to what is happening in Canada, that gives me that opinion that, you know what, most of the Canadians that right now, those that are getting their citizenship, they would rather go and settle back in
now.
the US.
How do you know how easy or how hard is it for a Canadian citizen to migrate to the US?
There used to be something called NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Area, something. Through that, they would get free work permits and stuff like that. I do not know how the system is now, complex or less complex, but I still believe that with our resilience as Ugandans, because I'm talking from a Ugandan perspective, with our resilience as Ugandans, as long as you've given them the tools to work with, as easy as the citizenship of Canada, they can still work with it.
So do you for you as an individual, Goloza, have you considered moving to the US? Is that something in your plans, or are you still pursuing the Canadian dream?
I was until I got something with the feds. Okay, until I got something in the federal government. Because now time comes when you're like, okay, you're looking for, you see, you remember the part where I was telling you that, you know what, the confusion is continuous until you discover that you need to do something. So I needed to anchor myself and enroute myself towards something that is more tangible and long lasting. It has to come either by career enlargement. You need to build your career upwards, either go back to school, get a better career, or because I went back to school and got a career that I have never even utilized. In that confusion, I have HVAC. Studied for 2 years throughout COVID, and I have never even opened a heating and a ventilation equipment. So, and that is how serious it is. There are so many people with a bunch of documents and certificates.
Yeah,
do you know that there are people with a bunch of certificates that they have studied, but they have never even utilized one of it. So, until when I got the federal government kind of thing, job, I was still considering US as an option for reasons of economic settlement, but also sustainability. Because look at this as a Ugandan, from a Ugandan perspective. If I'm sending money for construction in Uganda, I will send $1,000, which becomes 2 million, 2.5 million. When I send a US dollar 1,000, it becomes 3.5. So you can see the scale. So at the end of the day, when you settle down, they're like, okay, no, this makes sense. And most of the people that are in my circle, that is the route.
So George, you have been here for many years. Someone that is in Uganda considering coming to Canada in 2026, let's say they have their job, they work in corporate, they are making maybe like their money, they are 5 million. They have a family of 2, happily married. They are not rich, but they are, there.
They are okay.
They are okay. The bills are paid. Do you recommend that person to come to Canada?
To be honest, I've ever been asked that question before, but this was my assessment and analysis for it. It may not be like a one size fit all, but the truth and the reality is it depends on your objective. Because there are people move to Canada for different reasons. People move here for medical, for studies, for settlement, for their families, for their children, for the future of their children, and also for just change of environment or career development. So for that reason, depending on what the person's objectives are, it would warrant you to understand that Canada would give you opportunities if you, let's say, a young mother or a young couple that is looking to maybe have your children grow up in a system that nurtures them to, let's say, gain education that is world class. Okay, that's the angle. And then you can be able to like say, okay, I'm a mother who wants to create a future for my children. So you come in and then you work, bring in your young boys and girls, and then they can study, they become bigger, and then they grow into a Canadian system that, because the kids, let me give you this analysis also. There is a very interesting aspect that our kids that move from Uganda specifically, or Africa at large, that come and settle here, let's say they come at the age of 12, okay, let's say 10, then they do their high school in Canada. Those kids are totally different. I'm not looking at the other side, those that may slide away and get into other kind of funny things. But these ones that really, really are disciplined, because one, we nurture our kids and they come with some form of cultural upbringing. Even when they become stubborn, but they still have the fear of their father, their mother in them. So when you nurture that child here, that kid grows to become what you would call like they discover themselves when they are here. They are able to know that they are talented in basketball. There are so many high school kids that are now, even my son is in a like a school soccer, like a basketball team. They are tall, they are energetic, they are black, and they are respected in terms of energy and the vibe. So meaning that even when in terms of education, our kids come here when they're very bright. Remember, a child that moves from Africa to here, they have been studying, like, say, how many subjects? So many subjects. They come here, it becomes like a kid's play, like it's so like leisure.
It's easier for them.
So it's too easy for them to cope up very quickly and actually surpass the Canadian counterparts. And they become very, very, because we have kids that came here, and those that are like, say, 26, 25, or even 20, from 20 above, they are doing interns in government offices. They are in universities, they are completing their medicine, they are in medical schools, they are in nursing, they are in engineering, they are in pilot, they are in the army, So the next generation of Ugandans that are being nurtured from those ones that came here, let's say from 2000, let's say 2018, or 2000, from the 2000s, they are different. Because as much as for us, we come here to chase the paper, for them, they are chasing the educational system. So which means when they are rooted, these are the kids that are going to, you very soon, in 5 years' time, you're going to hear that the medical doctor of such and such a hospital is so and so, is a Ugandan. Oh, the senator of this is this. That is the anchor. So meaning that this system in the North American system here, let's say in Canada particularly that I'm speaking to, gives you an opportunity to create that for your children. Now, if it is for you that you want that, that is actually the best route. And you who wants to just give birth, then is also same thing. So you create something that can be able to nurture yourself. And also the documentation, paperwork, asimanya, immigration systems are a little bit easier to navigate for all the entire North American countries that here it is the best.
Yeah, so Canada still, actually I've heard that Canada still maybe a little bit better
than
than the US.
Yes.
So George, thank you so much for your time. The interview is gonna come to an end. What okugera something akatalekeka, something else you'd like to say before we close?
Tukalekere ddala.
Okay.
Crane Cargo ye company shipping ebintu okuva mu US nga babitwala e Uganda. Basobola okukola pick up oba osobola okubyereetera. Osobola okubireeta mu barrels, osobola okubireeta mu boxes, oba osobola okubireeta nga weebiri ne babipakinga bulungi ne babishippinga. Batwala ebintu ku nnyonyi buli wiiki, oba gw'ayagala okukozesa emmeeri batwala ebintu buli mwezi. Basange ku 481 Boston Road, Unit 4 mu Berica, Massachusetts, wabakubire ku simu yaabwe +1 781 288 2042. Bagambe Paradise yakusindise basobole okuwa discount oba kozesa discount code Paradise 10.